So without further delay, we'll have Todd Reed come, and Todd, you'll have to tell me what your full title is, because I've forgotten. It's quite long if I remember correctly.
Okay, turn it on. There we go. Yeah,
All right.
look at there. I'm surprised I could just plug it in and it worked.
I never had a doubt. There we go.
Is that the first one? No, there we go. So there's my title. Area Resources, Area Resource Conservationist, and I am now the Area Resource Conservationist for programs. I have a counterpart with us here in the area, and she does the technical part now. So a few years ago, I'm sorry, I forgot about that. How's that? Is that better? All right. So, Area Resource Conservationist for programs, and that's my title. And I've been working with the agency over 30 years now. I started back in '91 and worked in West Tennessee for a little bit, and then moved over here to East Tennessee, worked up to Claiborne County for a little while, and then came to the area office. And so in the area office, we cover the 26 counties in East Tennessee, basically from Campbell, Anderson, Loudon, Roane, Meigs, McMinn, Bradley County too. So from there east, all the way up to the northeast part. So on the video you just saw, I got to give all the credit to David. He put all of that together. I probably sent him 3 or 4 different videos, and then he pulled some other ones off. I sent him some links that we had other videos on the website, and he pieced that together, and that's awesome. And hopefully, I'm gonna take it and send it out to all our other people, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
Let our field employees use that, because that is a really, really good video that pretty much captures a lot of what we do here in East Tennessee, even though some of the areas there were different states. So I do work at the area office level, and it's here in Knoxville, but we do have field employees, district conservationists that are stationed in every county, or covers every county. Most of our conservationists cover 2 counties. So, Knox and Sevier County are together, and our office in Knox County is located over where the New Harvest Park is, right there where they're talking about having the farmers market in the park there. If you're familiar with New Harvest Park, well, our building's just right past that. If you go past the farmers market, it's over there on the left. And that's where the area office is located for East Tennessee. There's also the local conservation office there, and then the Farm Service Agency office that they talk about, and also rural development. The mission of our agency, we had it there, helping people help the land. That's the short title, but this is our I went the wrong way, hit the wrong button. There you go, point it. We deliver conservation solutions so that ag producers can protect natural resources and feed a growing world. And we expanded on the helping people help the land part. And I just wanted to, I don't know if you do the presentation out or if you attach the presentation or whatever.
After the meeting, I can put it on the website if you'd like it to be there.
Yeah. Or maybe just these first few slides, because all the rest of them are. But all of our information is located on these USDA.gov. Then when you're in USDA.gov, you just go to farmers.gov. That's going to be the interactive. We're slowly transitioning to where landowners will be able to log in and look at all their information without having to come to an office. So we're slowly transitioning to that, and that will be done through that farmers.gov. And then we've got USDA, NRCS, that's our agency's my agent that I work with in RCS. That's our website location. And then Tennessee.nrcs. So Tennessee has its own location, just drilling down. And I put this note in here so, it talked about us helping producers with cost share funds and things like that. Last year in East Tennessee, the 26 counties we covered, it was $13.4 million that went to producers to help install conservation practices. And that was from high tunnels to rotational grazing watering systems to stream bank stabilization projects to dairy, dairy lagoons and dairy systems to recycle all of that. Any of the other practices that we got.
So would it be a true statement that the vast majority of people that use your services are ones that are planting crops or raising cattle or have some other kind of agriculture that's going on?
Yes.
And so
most of the time, yeah.
Okay, so so for others that are on rural land, how does helping with their conservation help
lead to that?
Lead to
Yeah.
help for the producers?
Yeah. And so a lot of what we got with just rural land is, we can work with, if there's any natural resource concern issue, and I know they talked about it real early, but the easy way to remember it is SWAPA. SWAPA stands for soil, water, air, plants, animals, and then the H is human. So within those main resource topics there, we have multiple natural resource concerns that can fall under there. So like under soil, you could go into the sheet and rill erosion, you can go into gully erosion, you can go into stream bank stabilization type, stream erosion, any of those type of things, or increasing organic matter. All of those things fall under soil. Then we've got multitude under water, we've got a multitude under air. So long answer to a short question, you don't have to be a row crop farmer, or you don't have to be a dairy farmer, you don't have to be a beef cattle operator to participate in the programs and participate with us helping with conservation. That's eligible to anybody that has property or leases property and has a resource concern. They covered a little bit of it in the video where, the first steps is setting up the farm and tract number and getting your records correct at the Farm Service Agency. And then, all people that participate in the USDA programs have to be HEL compliant and wetland compliant. So basically, you've got to be not washing away your soils, and then you've also got to be not draining wetlands. And so if you're meeting those, and you meet the basic adjusted gross income, and there's certain different eligibility requirements for participants and for the land. If you're meeting those, then you're eligible, and we have practices that can help wildlife. Is it two base?
That's all right.
Am I holding it too close?
No, you're good.
No, it's not you. I think it's the tone on there makes it a little basic.
Is that better?
Try it again.
Is that better?
I've got
A little
triple
better.
75%.
Yeah,
Good.
it's
A little bit better?
Some
Okay.
better.
Okay.
I've seen it least.
The rest must be you.
We have
Say
we have a lady that's joined us on.
Okay.
Maybe you just want to say hi to her. Name is Sandra Worthington.
Hello, Sandra.
We'll
Welcome for joining us.
have,
My name's Todd Reed.
Hi, it's a little difficult to hear. It sounds like on the microphone. Maybe hold it a little bit away from you, or somewhere different, closer to your mouth, or a little bit away.
We just worked on that.
Yeah, we're learning as we're going, so I'll do some adjustments through there. But we'll have some time for questions here shortly.
Okay.
So, and tying into one of the things that you're talking, or questions you asked about, and, you know, a lot of times we were thinking about large farms, large row crops, you know, a lot of that's what was shown. And traditionally, that's where our agency had been focused mostly on whenever, you know, I was describing the part about us starting off
Yeah, very good.
with the, our agency started as a result of the Dust Bowl, however many years ago when that happened, and we transitioned from working on trying to solve the large soil erosion problems out west and stuff to where now we're covering all of the natural resources, and that's why we changed our name. We used to be Soil Conservation Service, but now we changed to Natural Resources Conservation so that we could work with all of those SWAPA resource concerns that we've got. So,
Yeah, so.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said forest also. I happen to have 35 acres of forest.
Yep.
When I called my guy who's equivalent to you, because it's in Polk County, he's like, all he told me was, don't cut down more than a third at a time. I'm like, that's not helpful, bud.
okay.
So what can you do for forest?
Yeah, so we do, I mean, most of our forest projects that we do first come from having a forest management plan. So typically we would start off with working with a forester, or you would have a forester or a technical service provider
Okay.
to work with you on what you're wanting to do with that forest, what you're
Okay.
wanting to do with your timber. They can develop a forest management plan, and then from that forest management plan, you could enter into doing practices that we have available, whatever was the result of that forest management plan.
Okay.
And so there's different things, you know, each individual will have a different one. So there's different things that can be done. But programmatic wise, first step would be, again, you know, getting eligible for programs, and then doing a forest management plan so that we would know what practices that we have in the suite of practices that we can do to do that. And so the forest management plan is, and I'll use the word cost shareable because that's, you know, they're reimbursed, not 100%. All of our costs are based off of an area cost list, which consists of multiple states. And, you know, each practice has a payment rate. So, you know, so for a fence, it might pay $4 a foot. And that's what it pays. You install 100, we got 100 feet of fence in the contract. We're gonna have $400 in the contract. When you get install 100 feet, you pay $400.
Okay.
It might have cost you $1,000 to build it, or it might have cost you $300. We paid, you know, based off what's in the contract,
Okay.
based off that payment rate. So I made up that number. That's not.
Yes,
That's not.
I
I can only
understand.
do that math in my head. I can do easy math, but go ahead.
Are those reimbursements considered income? We pay taxes?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Those are. It would be, you know, through the farm tax and that kind of stuff. So, well, we do. That's part of making sure whenever somebody signs up, takes all that paperwork, you know, when we do the application, we've got to get all the tax information and, you know, yeah, you know, the government's not, yeah, it's income. Any other questions? And I can go through, so, urban. One of the things, so we go from the large stuff that we're usually focusing on, because that's, you know, when I started in '91, those first 5 years, my whole thing was let's work with these big row croppers and try to get them to go to no-till so that we can stop all the soil erosion getting into the Mississippi River. And, you know, that was our main focus, but like I said, we broadened. And so just here recently, we've gotten, you know, we started doing the high tunnels that you've been seeing maybe 10 years ago, but it was such a new thing and such a novelty that we weren't real familiar with it. And most landowners hadn't started picking up. So within the last 5 years, you know, it's been catching on, and we've been doing a whole lot more high tunnels. Well, now we're moving into the urban agriculture part of it, where you're looking at smaller scale type stuff that might be, urban farms that are inside Knox County city limits, that kind of thing. And so we've got a new focus on that urban agriculture, and this is one of the slides that we've got on one of the websites there that you can go look, and I've got some handouts up here, the Urban Toolkit, that's hot off the press right there with just different things like that. So these high tunnels, the ones they showed there were the larger ones, but they're, they come in kits that are a lot smaller, that can work on smaller acreages and stuff. And so most of the high tunnel stuff, the prerequisite is, having a crop. So if you've been cropping, whatever type of crop it might be, if you've been producing, then that area is eligible for a high tunnel if you meet all the other eligibility stuff is that type of thing. We've got a lot of good questions here. Let's go.
I heard an interesting presentation with the master gardeners by a guy who was advocating letting a portion of your grassy lawn go back to nature with native plants and things. Is there anybody in your organization who could help us with things like that?
That could probably be one of the things that we could do under the new urban type, if you had that farm and tract number, and then setting up a designated area to maybe convert that into more pollinators and things like that. We do have certain practices that have standards, and all of those have not transitioned yet to that super small scale type size. So that cost that we've got right now for converting native grasses into something like you're saying might pay $100 and something an acre. So
I'm not even interested
Yeah,
in getting
but-
compensation. I'd like somebody to help me
we
learn how to
could
do
do
it,
that. Yep.
basically.
Yeah, and so that would be something that we have folks that could assist with doing that if you wanted, some of that technically, we do practices on a larger scale, which is a natural regeneration, where you get rid of what you don't want and let nature regenerate what's naturally, the seed bank, what's already naturally there, versus putting in a lot of effort into planting something, because typically and what we usually talk about in what you're talking about is getting rid of the fescue, killing out the fescue, or, in a yard, if you have Bermuda grass, getting rid of those introduced grass species and then let naturally
So would you have to actually go through with grass killer and just kill everything first and then just let it go?
that would be the least cost way to do it. Yep.
If you've got the time, like where I live, I'm on rent. Most of the grass, there's not that much grass left there. The weeds have pretty much taken it over, and actually, there's nothing wrong with weeds. Weeds are just something people don't like in
Right.
a certain place. So
The
weeds
bugs
are
might
perfectly
really
natural.
like the weeds, the
And,
bees.
there's like this little bank, and I just keep, I said, maybe pretty soon I want to cut it, because I don't know what it is. It's a little, there's some clover in there, there's all kinds of stuff that's like taking over the entire bank, killing off all the grass, and there's a few parts that hasn't. And it doesn't get that hot, and it's nice and, I'm thinking, because, as I said, I'm renting in a duplex, and the property, it's like their backyard, every time it rains, turns into like, I used to call it a vernal pool, and it's getting to the point where it's almost a pond, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. It takes forever to dry out. When you walk out there, you're walking on moss, it's really spongy. But the front, there's this big bank, and it's been taken over by a couple different kinds of whatever. And they're actually pretty, they have these little tiny flowers, they don't, and I'm thinking,
There's a
I
blue
hate-
flowers and there's flowering now.
yeah,
that
there's multiple things out there, besides the violets all over the yard and stuff. But to me, I've always thought grass was the biggest waste. It's stupid, I just don't like it.
I don't like mowing either. But
Oh,
I haven't planted
It's
my
not
whole
even
yard
that,
in the garden yet.
I have so many burrs and things out in that front yard now, it's ridiculous because they're picking it. But for urban agriculture, like a lot of, I know not being from Tennessee originally, but when I drive down Kingston Pike, some places, there are people who have these huge lots with their houses, and they have horses and everything. My brother in Florida, they don't have the horses anymore, but they bought this property, and I can walk around there, and people own several acres. It's not huge, but I was looking at the dog didn't see the goats when we were out walking the one day, because she'd have gone nuts, and I can't hold her. She takes off. But, you know, people are doing more of this, and they're doing more community gardens, and it's not just people doing backyard gardens. So for like a community garden, if people were interested in that, would that be, you guys be like a resource to set it up and figure out how to do it? Because you got property and you're gonna have a community garden, you know, you're gonna always have people that are putting in their 2 cents worth. So you need to have somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah. We don't usually do the setting up part, you know.
Yeah,
that-
but
that
you can
type
tell
of
them
part.
kind of what to
We
do.
could help with the practices, and a lot of times, most, you know, all of our programs are voluntary. There's not anything that's mandatory that you gotta do this, you gotta do that. And so most of the time, you know, we have to work in advising the landowner and directing the landowner with their ideas of what they want to do. So the community garden folks would need to already know sort of what they want to do, and then we'd help them along that way.
Well,
We
that's what
wouldn't
I'm
come out and
saying.
say, plant this here, plant that there, plant, you know, we don't do that part with, you know, plant this bed and tomatoes, plant this one in, you know. But we would have the resources that would maybe help when the people that do know, you know, I want to set up so many beds and I want to do this type of stuff, and we could help
Or kind of maybe
the
just
financial side.
help them to figure out how to lay it out
Yeah.
and good practices for what they're doing,
Mhm.
like you said.
Yeah.
You're stomping
It,
them.
that, yes, and we could, we're gonna be learning, because like I said, this is real new, and we
Yeah.
haven't done this type of stuff, you know, as an agency. We're real good at knowing how to lay out diversions, and we're real good at knowing how to lay out terraces so that a huge tractor that can till 30 rows at a time, you know, we've got that technical expertise, but we haven't learned the technical expertise yet for the, you know, how big does your bed need to be? And
Well,
Yeah,
So
how
it's all
big is your
new.
lot and how much can you put in that
you know,
lot?
more cities are taking over, you know, when things are abandoned or blighted, they tear it down and it's an empty lot. And a lot of places are saying, well, let's turn it into a community garden, because they talk about, you know, the
Well, and then you have to deal
food
with
deserts and cities and things like that, so, but people are afraid to do some of it because they're thinking, okay, I can do this, and they don't know what they're doing.
Do you guys work with zoning within, okay.
Yeah, we don't.
Their government, they can't get into other government
Yeah,
issues.
yeah, we
It's
don't
not allowed.
get into the county, and, no, the county sets their own zoning laws and stuff like that. So, and that's, again, you know, typically, again, when we work with your row crop farmers, your big cow farmers and all that kind of stuff, that's not an issue that comes up, you know, we're out on a
They're out in the
person's
middle,
farm,
yeah.
you've got 50 acres, I want to rotate my cows, we can do cross fence and water systems. As we start getting into the small urban ag stuff, that's gonna be something that our agents out in the field, and we're gonna have to say, look, you're gonna need to make sure that the zoning stuff will let you put up a high tunnel. So you're gonna have to, you know, that's something that we are gonna have to start thinking of, because, you know, the local zoning laws in Knoxville might not let you do a high tunnel, or if you do, it might have to be different type, you know, you might get into different structural stuff within the city.
Well,
You know,
that's like
so
my
anyway.
brother's place was several acres, when they had the horses and stuff. They actually took paperwork down and got it classified as a farm, even though it was only a few acres, and helped them tax them.
Well, in some cities, you know, one city I just came from, people had chickens, didn't even all go away.
Yeah, you got your different HOAs, yeah, so.
Oh, that was city zoning, that was not HOA.
But even within the city, you might have different HOAs that say you can't do that type of stuff, so.
Yeah. You must have Bermuda grass in your front yard.
Mow it every day or something like that. Yeah.
Speaking of local regulations, I understood at one time, and I'm asking whether it still exists, I believe it was the city of Knoxville, not the county, that said it was illegal to have a vegetable garden at your private home for fear that you would give a tainted tomato to some friend or something.
I don't know about that.
I know.
I'd have to, I'd have to check
I've
this
heard
out.
horror
Yeah.
stories about that, but sometimes those get
You have a big
apocryphal.
vegetable garden.
Yeah. And just, that would be the, individual city or county's own law,
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I wondered if you knew whether that still existed, or
You
whether
know, I
it
know
was
we-
just a story.
And that might have been. I know we've helped here in Knoxville with some high tunnels that are in the city limits. I don't know exactly where they're at, but one of them is, I do know where one, we worked with, what's the place over in East Knoxville that has, it's a community area there, and they've got walking trails, and it's an old, real old building. But anyway, if you said the name of it.
Almost, yeah, I pass
It's
by
not
it all the
Iris
time.
Nature Center, but
It's
it's,
something,
Lions?
no, it's not Iris.
there's a historic home from 1700s. I can't try to think of the name of it.
And it's kind of a park, but we've done some high tunnels there.
At the Andrew Johnson.
No, not that one. It seems,
Can't even remember what street, huh?
I
It's
think it's.
right off John Sevier, isn't it?
Yeah, and then maybe North Shore is.
Well, North Shore, that's West Knoxville.
That's West, okay,
There's a
well, it's,
botanical garden when you sort of out in the east.
yeah, it might be that, I think that's it. What is the name? Something botanical?
Yeah, but I don't know the actual name, and there
Yeah.
is a botanical
I
garden.
think that's it.
They had something out there several years ago, and that was when I found the place. I didn't even know it existed.
Sorry, I didn't know that. I would have looked it up. I know where, I kind of know where it's at, but it's, any other questions? I've got a lot of pictures on here that I can show, like before and after shots, if y'all are interested in looking at before and after shots of different things that we do.
Well, before we move off of the urban agriculture, so that if you're truly in an urban area, I'm not sure if there's like an unused piece of ground in a densely populated area. If you think of like, an inner city or something, there might be a house that's no longer there. So there's the property owner, which might be the city, but then there is, the neighborhood around there. One of the first requirements was a tax ID. So does that imply that the neighbors would need to get together and form some kind of a little organization to be able to participate in it? Okay.
Yeah, we can't enter contracts in with state governments or federal governments or, state governments, federal governments, schools, which again, schools and things, because we always have, somebody that's in a school somewhere saying, hey, I want to do an outdoor classroom. Well, we can do technical assistance, but we can't do cost share, payment assistance. We can always provide technical support, giving plans, talking about what needs to be done, that kind of thing. But the cost share part, we can't do it with state governments and that. So the next part, if a state government is leasing that land to a individual, and that individual can show that they have control of that property for the length of the contract, which is typically 5 years on small projects. Could be less than that, could be 3 years. So if that person can show that they've got lease and control, that's the main thing. The person we enter a contract with has to have control of that property for the length of the contract. Then we can do projects on that. So, if that property was owned by the city, but some nonprofit or some other individual was leasing it from them and had control and could show all of that, then we could do projects. Do cost share type projects.
I was just trying to think if there was, a group of interested persons, and I don't have anyone in mind, just if anybody's ever asked the question. So like if a group of community neighbors wanted to get together and do some kind of little nonprofit, and then maybe get a city official interested that maybe could arrange for that nonprofit to lease the ground for 5 years for $1 or something, then that would kind of meet the requirement, because you have the tax ID of the little nonprofit, and then something to show that they had control of that land. You can't work with anybody that doesn't have direct control over the land.
They've got, they've got
Okay.
control.
And does that kind of sound like what maybe the organizers of the urban initiative might have had in mind for?
They, I think they more or less, granted, I don't know congressmen and all of their, their thought process, but they wanted our programs to help urban situations and help, instead of focusing on big row crop stuff. We got taxpayers that are also in urban areas, and so we're trying to, one of the things was the food desert. So this year in our ranking, when we ranked applications of food desert, so if somebody was with, if they were doing a project within so many, miles of a food desert, they got extra ranking points that moved them up the list. So some things like that with urban.
So
10 years ago or so, again, I don't know the name of the place, it's West Knoxville, and they have all of the sunflowers, the big area along the lake out there in West Knoxville, East Knoxville, that has all the sunflowers. It's not the
That's
That's near Ives, yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't Ives, it's another one.
No, it's that birding park that this,
I think you're.
Seven
Islands, that's it, 7 Islands.
Yeah.
So prior to 7 Islands,
Well, that's the bird section.
yeah, 7
The
Islands.
state took it over. It was originally,
Right.
I think, seven.
Prior to the state taking it over, we did projects out there with them. So it was a nonprofit, whoever was running it at the time, I don't remember, but we did several projects on that 7 Islands property before, and then, the few years after we did our stuff and contracts over or whatever, they gave, let the county or whoever take it, the state, I guess, it's a wildlife refuge now, I think. Anyway, so your question is yes, there's a way around it, it's just gotta.
Well, I was, not to tag into that, but just as a final thought, so if you made it sound, in your answer, you made it sound like there was someone in the state government that kind of asked the NRCS to kind of encourage that for encouraging urban agriculture. Did I understand that correctly? And if so, do you know who that
That
person
was
was?
DC.
Oh, was it
The
DC?
encouragement, yeah, our programs are all, this is federal.
Okay.
Yeah, so that came down.
So there was a congressman that was at the national level encouraging it. I was just curious
Congress
if,
critter. One or many.
Whoever it was, it's just a new, it's like, we're wanting you all to focus more, including including urban agriculture. Prior to that, our main thought was big stuff, and, when you're washing all the soil out in the Mississippi River, you come, fix a 1 acre place, but you leave 4,000 acres that are washing away.
right, yeah, you got to
So,
prioritize.
yeah, so we're adding a little more focus to the urban ag stuff.
Yeah, it's not easy to start a nonprofit, I know that firsthand,
Okay.
and so, if they're asking the NRCS to do that at the national level, maybe there is other resources for small communities that want to do that.
The biggest
It
one,
sounds like you don't have to be a nonprofit, you just have to be an association, and somebody has to say, I'm the one in charge.
and they get the, and it would go, who's gonna get the payments, who we're gonna direct deposit to pay to, who we're gonna, all that kind of stuff. So there are all those details, but they're workarounds.
So it's-
Workarounds.
It sounds like you're more interested in, at least your organization's more interested in cost sharing, but there's some of us who just want help with planning.
Mhm.
So is there any gear towards that?
Yes.
I think what you call technical. So
Mhm.
if you're just offering technical, then we can come ask you for that too.
Yes.
All right,
Yeah.
question back here.
Yeah, so Well, you're on urban agriculture, kind of fits there, but it kind of grows in other spots as well. So I do aquaponic farming, and I know maybe that by itself isn't necessarily conservation, but maybe kind of leads to it in a way. So is that something that you guys have dealt with before?
You said it was, what was it?
Aquaponics?
Aquaponics. I have not yet, you know, and that's something that we just haven't done it yet. And, you know, going back to depending on, a lot of it depends on what is it that you want to do with that. You know, we have a certain practices in our state that are eligible for funding, you know, that kind of thing. And when I talk about the eligibility or what it is you want to do, you know, that's kind of where I'm geared to is, if we have those practices that are eligible, then we can, you know, find and if we don't know, which, you know, I don't know, but if we don't have somebody within our state that knows what's going on, we can try to pull those resources together.
What's the best way to kind of try and figure that out? Because that's, as I'm listening, I've got a list of things that I think I could probably use. You know, so one, I'm new to the state here, so I'm still looking for property to put my farm on here. So part of my thought is, you know, is there assistance out there to kind of help, not necessarily search for land, but kind of, hey, what is this land that I need to look for? You know, and then with my aquaponic farming, I do use pipe tunnels, but I also have other kind of goals. I want to have some other livestock in there as well. So what kind of soil and pond, like retention pond, watering system type pond stuff for those kind of things when I'm looking for those properties. And then one of the big things, you know, I think at the beginning you mentioned that you kind of have to be in business already. So, you know, I've had a small farm in Kentucky, but here in the last few years I haven't had one. So now as I get back into it, how am I able to use those kind of services and kind of plan some of that stuff into what I'm looking for right now? And then to tie in, I guess, throw all my questions in there.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of thought to think about. So the other thing is, you know, I know USDA and some of the states have a lot of different, like, small farmer grants and loans, and do you even help with advice on those, or help exposure to what some of those things are? And yeah, so all that.
And then some.
There's some more.
Yeah.
But yes,
We'll try to work backwards. So the loan part, those are available, but not through the NRCS agency. That might be through rural development. You know, it's all within USDA, but the rural development department, you know, has some different things like that, and so does the Farm Service Agency. So there would be assistance available with that, but again, that's different agencies, so I'm not as familiar with exactly.
I was gonna say, I guess maybe the consolidated question of that is are you, or what is maybe a good resource to kind of go, and who do I talk to kind of help figure out in all those different places that it could be used and helped for?
Right.
Because a lot of these things, I think that you guys and organizations like you are aware of, are things I wouldn't even probably think about that would very much benefit what I'm doing. So how do I plan all that? Who should I talk to?
We work real close with the state universities, UT and the UT Agriculture Extension, UT Agriculture Extension, and a lot of the publications that I got, or I said a lot, you know, some of them are from UT. And so if you're getting, usually what we suggest is if you're getting with that overall farm management type stuff with economics and all of those in the details, would be working with the local ag extension office, because they do more of that kind of stuff with planning what you're going to do for your whole operation versus planning how to address natural resources. And that's what we focus on. And so the way the farm bill, and all of our stuff is issued through the farm bill, so we're working under the last farm bill, the 2018 farm bill is what is authorizing our agency to do the stuff that our agency does. And so, when I listed the swap of resources, the way our cost share programs work is we fix problems. And so if you don't have a problem, so to speak, if you don't have a resource concern, then the cost share dollars won't be there to fix something that's not a problem. But the technical assistance could be there. So, you know, if we have not moved yet, you know, in this last farm bill, there was a little blurb in there that mentioned something towards the effect of a potential problem. And in the past, that little potential problem in the details of however big the farm bill was not there. And so this last farm bill, they put that little thing in there, so who knows what's going to happen in the next farm bill. But long story short, you know, our agency isn't set up to put people into production or to, you know, help cost share. You know, somebody goes buys a farm and says, I want to be a dairy farmer, and then, you know, come in and us build the whole facility and all that. That's not what we do. You know, we go out to somebody that's already doing something. So like I said, you know, if you do have a backyard and you're cropping, well, then we can come in and say, yeah, we need to help with a high tunnel over what you're cropping to help the, you know, all the things that it said it was going to do to help with plant productivity and health and stuff like that. But we can't come in and say, oh, you've never farmed before here. There's no, you know, we're going to set this up for a chicken farm or something like that. You know, we don't do the putting people into production type stuff. So there has to be a problem to fix.
Well, we can start the relationship prior to do that, because I think probably what I'm hearing the biggest thing you might be able to help out with is, as I'm looking for property, find one, I'm like, okay, I like this, but there is no water source, no retention pond, like how I could probably talk to you guys about, okay, I see a potential problem here, if I want cattle, livestock, or whatnot, but I want, you know, I need X big thing, is this even possible on this land, especially as I go out west where, you know, the soil is rock.
Yeah,
It's all rock around here.
yeah, but there's at least green things growing on top.
That is true.
Okay,
But
thank
it's
you.
all
Was
sandstone
there-
and limestone too, so it's
Yeah.
where
Did I-
it eventually sinks.
I know I started, but I don't know if I got everything. Was there something?
No, you pretty much covered everything I had in there. I mean, the big part was that, you know,
Right.
reaching out to UT Ag Extension for most of that stuff.
We usually, our agents, me as an agent in the office, or, you know, again, I'm not, but when I was, you know, we don't really, and have not really, if somebody comes in and says, look, I want a farm, come help me find a farm to go farm. We usually don't do that. We usually, after you've already purchased something, say, okay, I got this, and my ideas are, I want some wildlife, I want maybe some cropping, I want some rotate. Well, then we can work on planning what you're wanting to do on what you got.
So it's more like you guys are not proactive, so us folks who want to be proactive and want to actually conserve while we're going in and doing our stuff, we're gonna have to really
Not
massage
create
you guys to get information on you, because I've already had, you know, I went to your cohort over in Polk County, and he was like worthless. So what you,
Who was it?
I don't remember his name, but yeah, all he told me was, only cut out a third of the forest at a time. I'm like, that's not helpful.
You know, and again, like I said, the last farm bill mentioned that possibility stuff. So yes, most of the time we are reactive on the creek banks washing away. Somebody decides, hey, I've really got a problem and I want to fix it now, and then we can come in and help fix the problem to stop it from getting any worse.
Instead of going in there and saying, don't do this over here because it'll all wash down there.
Yeah.
And after you do that, then we can come in.
Yeah.
And a lot of that goes back to the part that we're not regulatory, and so, I do remember a big push at one of the offices I was at several years ago, and the whole thing is, fence livestock out of your creek. You can do that. And the pushback on that, so getting out there and telling somebody what they gotta do as a federal government, you got a piece of property, well, you gotta do this, this, and this. That's kind of something that we don't do because we're voluntary. We go at it in the respect of, you come to us with what you want us to help you with, that kind of thing.
You got about 20 minutes left.
Oh, okay. Well, unless y'all want, I can go through slides or whatever I'm here to.
Is that urban agriculture referring to like mainly some kind of community aspect, or could it be like your personal property, your front yard type stuff as well?
Both, yeah. One of the things, we had a training over organics and small scale farming and stuff, and it was about a year ago. And one of the speakers was a community type person from West Tennessee, and basically he was turning, dilapidated, giving up properties, he would get it, and turning all of that into a big community garden type situation where they've only got, they've got processing facilities and things like that. Now, we as an agency, we didn't help build the buildings, we didn't help do all of that kind of stuff, but we did help with some of the cost share on some of the other, high tunnels and things like that he's doing.
What's a high tunnel?
It is, it's a less expensive greenhouse. It's more of a hoop structure with thick plastic over the top of it, front end walls, and it can be different sizes and things like that. The high tunnel, in our definition, is 8 feet or larger, I think it is, or it might be 6 feet or larger. They make some that you've seen in other places, which we call low tunnels, which are just little bitty, hoops about this big that you put over little small things, like, little areas that you might want to extend the growing season of the crop that you've got there. It acts kind of like a greenhouse, basically, so that you can start your plants off earlier and then transplant them to other places, or go ahead and just grow it out in there too.
Can you show us a few of those before and after pictures?
Yeah. Everybody,
Go to it.
Yeah,
I have to get my, probably glasses. Let's see, what did I? Oh,
Go for your forward and backwards buttons were reversed or something.
Doesn't like it.
I might have went to sleep or something.
There you
go. Before and after, so this is, I think this one's up in Washington County. Again, reactive. Somebody comes in and says, hey, I'm losing so much of my creek bank every year, so this is kind of the before of what it might have looked like, and the same building back there. And so we helped this landowner cost share with, and did the engineering designs, and we've got engineers that design all this stuff, so did them, and our local person was on site making sure it got installed correctly and all that. So that's a stream bank stabilization type toe, and that is a toe protection. Here's a different one, different situation here, and come back in. That's the exact same. That might not be the exact same picture. I think this one, this picture, and
The next one.
that one, that one's up.
Yeah, just a different angle.
Yeah. This is something that we're doing in smaller stuff and larger. This is. I want to hit the point about be weird. those are V-weirs or J-hooks. And so this practice is set up to, if you've got a stream that's over widening and becoming too shallow, might be washing away the creek banks on the sides and stuff, we put in a rock structure that in high flow situations basically has the water. Water wants to turn across a structure at 90 degrees, kind of like light does. So that's why you point these things upstream. Looks counterintuitive if you're wanting to stabilize the bank back here. But you point this structure upstream, and when you get high flow, the water comes back over this, back into the channel. And then it also helps keep this channel cleaned out because you keep the flow of the water fast enough in there. So, and I say cleaned out, it keeps it from over widening, and provides, fish habitat and alligator habitat and stuff like that. So I might not have the before of that, but and a lot of times we put these in series depending on, so you can see this one, and then there's another one up here and another one. So a half of one of these is called a J-hook, depending on how much the creek's bending and stuff. You got V-weirs and J-hooks, and this one I think is maybe a J-hook, so that's coming out into the water here. And when you get a high flow, it's going to bring that water back in. There's another. Most of these are just pictures right after the installation, but you come back 5 or 6 years, and then this is all covered in grass and trees, and looks natural. Stream crossings, for cattle and livestock, instead of just letting them have total access to it, and we harden that and it goes across there and gives them a way to go across it. This is one of the projects I did several years ago. The landowner, you can see his house and the hill up here, and they were grazing, convenient grazing, right here in the wintertime, washing away the creek. That's where everything had to drink. He was interested in trying to help stop that. And so we captured the water out of the creek, pumped it to the top of the hill, way up there, and then let it gravity flow back down to different watering troughs so that they could graze out here. Put a fence up along this side and basically turned all of this into a riparian buffer area. And we helped cost share and pay for all that. So that was the before, and then this is the same area after and that was the farmer. This is the same area after the trees have been growing for 5 or 10 years or so. That's that same hill, and here's, that's that same creek with the trees growing maybe 10 years later or so. So here's another one, cattle getting into the creek. We cost share on fencing it off and letting it stabilize. This one is a wetland that we did up in Greene County. So if you notice this building right here, and so this was, pasture, grazing, row crop, whatever it was, and the landowner said, look, I'm wanting to do some wildlife habitat stuff and create, duck hunting place or create a waterfowl place. So if you can, this maybe during construction, there's different methods to help bring back the flow. And one of the easiest ones, back a long time ago when people were row cropping all this stuff, they put tile drainage in, so we come in and break the tile drainage and the hydrology and naturally come back. But anyway, so here's after we established the wetlands. You can see the same barn, same building, same area there. So that's some of the stuff. We help cost share on doing that. Oh, that's the soil health video you already saw. He's pretty intense. There were several of them, and he gets pretty intense on those. Again, another big green bank, this stream bank stabilization project, a little bit bigger. I don't have the before on this one, but this was in a bend, and the bend was eating out this creek bank way up here. So trying to stabilize that bend and putting in J-hooks. We didn't do V-weirs on this one. This is just a J-hook. And before we do all these projects, we've got to go through the whole permitting process with the Corps, the Tennessee Valley TVA, and TDEC, Tennessee Department of Environment Conservation. This one here's the J-hook going out in here. So you basically place a large rock right out in here, and I say large, call them I call them bars, short, a bar rock. The biggest rock you can get in the dump truck, and you put it out here at surface of the creek bank, you know, the ground surface of the creek bank. And that pretty much stabilizes and holds that, and then you work yourself back up in a triangle pyramid type way where whenever the flood comes, it's gonna turn over this, and you've got the stabilizing area out there. And so eventually it fills in behind with sediment because you got slower still water. And there's a different angle of that, so you can see how the water is coming here, and then it turns over that and diverts that water back into the channel and keeps it off the bank. So that extends on out into here, and then you come up. So as rain, flood gets up, it's gonna do the same thing here. You get a little still water back here, turns to 90 degrees, the fast water's gonna stay out here, helps stuff from over widening, helps stabilize banks. So we'll jump that. A lot of times we'll come to something like that, and then we can, this isn't the exact one, but we can put in water tanks and pipelines and things like that. Another stream bank stabilization project. This might be the whole, this is the construction process of it. We line off, most anytime we put gravel down anywhere, like under the water tank, you can see we got gravel here. Well, that fabric's under here too. That it's y'all might know it, geotextile fabric, and it separates the soil from the rock that you put on. It allows water to travel through. But if you just put the rock on bare ground, that ground's going to eat out underneath the rock. The rock's going to disappear. That travel lane that they showed in the video, same thing. You put the fabric down, gravel on top, and then it all stays there. But it still lets water infiltrate. Stream bank stabilized stuff here, there's a trench down here that they're going to fill back in, put the gravel and then stabilize the bank up behind it there. That same picture there. This is one we're planting trees. There's a few smaller J hooks going out right there, and then we're planting trees in behind it to establish the riparian buffer zone there. Let me go. Somebody had asked about high tunnels. I've got, these would be pictures of ones that we've done. I wonder if this will let me do it. Will that advance this way? Oh,
We lost it.
no. I've got it. This is not a PowerPoint presentation, so
Sure.
let's see if I can. It's been a while since I've had to do a presentation, so here's my, there it is, displays. I want to, displays, correct. How to mirror my screen, mirror my screen. Hopefully display is showing lines. Okay. See that. There you go.
Something came up.
Oh, it did have the wrong one. I think I hit duplicate. Keep changes. I hit the wrong button. All right. Sorry about that. Now let's see if this thing will advance. Ah, look at there. It works. So that's a hot tunnel. I don't know if you run, and this is one here in East Tennessee.
Is that an open end or a closed end?
Closed. This is a hard plastic. With this particular one, it's
Looks like lead sand.
what?
It's probably lead sand on that.
All I know is I looked at it and it's plastic with little.
Yeah, lead sand.
Yeah,
Okay,
lead sand.
lead sand. I didn't know the name of it. But you got the sides where you can roll them up
Mhm.
and let air in, and you can open the doors. Some people do bigger doors so you can get equipment in. They're all individualized. You'll see all of them. This is the same one, different angle. And I've seen.
Looks like Tinker Toys for adults.
Here's a different one, you know, the different kits, you know, they use the same plastic on all of it, so everybody does their own. We, as an agency, there's a few things we don't design, and this is one of them. It's a manufactured kit, so whatever the manufactured kit that you purchase, you install it based on what the manufacturer says and go from there. So that's looking in one. There, I've seen all the different types of supports in there and stuff. Here's a different one. This one's, I think this is in Polk County. This one. And the person you want to talk to in our agency in Polk County is Chase Hicks, and his office is in Cleveland.
Yes, if I had to go to another county to get
In
it.
Cleveland.
I think I did talk to Chase.
I'll ask him about that. Well, you know.
Why aren't you?
Because your first, that might be on the pictures on the high tunnels. Are there any other questions? So let's see, I've got,
So we got time for one more.
oh, just one more. Like I said, I've got however many more pictures you want to look at on the camera. I don't want to bore you, but I just pulled up and see who's going to do it. Yeah, there you go. This one, I'm guessing, was probably we might have converted all that native warm season grass. So, you know, again, we hadn't done small areas, but yeah, and then the prescribed burn. So this was after a prescribed burn in that area to help. Once we do native warm season grasses, you want to burn them every 3 years or so to help knock back the carbon and let the grass come back again. Again, another water tank for, this is probably looking at a possible stream bank project prior to anything that we did. So I can stay here and show pictures as much as you want to, or you got, are there any other questions? You said something about the material here. A lot of these on the front right here, the unlock your potential, that all goes with the soil health and the do not till in the video with Ray Archuleta and that kind of stuff. Then I've got some stuff up here about urban ag and then the organics and Bob White quail and pollinators and all kinds of different stuff. So take all of that as you can.
Thank you.
Any final questions?
The first, are all of you all in Knox County? Most of you Knox County, or you're not?
Not
Sevier County.
You're
in Anderson.
Here in Anacocha.
You're in Anderson. So that would, Anderson County is Haiti to Jet, and her office is, if you're going up the road, it's, and the, what's the, can't think of it. What's the old, they're redoing something out there,
They're redoing all kinds of
the
stuff.
agriculture, the historical agriculture place, the old farm place right there on the left. What's the name of that? Anyway,
Well, I mean, I don't
They're
know.
over
I've
there.
been there a few years and it's like, there's so many government buildings because the town is
Oh,
by the
yeah,
yard.
they're up the road a little bit. There's a,
What road?
Like, you
I
know,
know
the
how to drive
turnpike
right
and,
to it.
Okay.
maybe the turnpike, over the turnpike.
They have a festival out there. It's an old ag barn and big old festival that they advertise.
They have, there's
What's the name of
a
that?
thing over in Clinton.
Yeah, it's in Clinton.
Yeah, because I'm in Oak Ridge and I think I know what you're talking
Her
about.
office
'Cause
is
I've driven
before you
by it.
get to there. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on the left before you get there.
It's all out of the turnpike, Oak Ridge Turnpike into Clinton.
They're putting that
It's all
big
in.
bridge in there. I think we're done. Unless, I've got my business card, and I didn't ask the lady on there if she had questions. I
Oh, yeah,
forgot, I'm sorry.
Let's see. Well, Sandra, you're able to,
Do you want questions?
Sandra, you're able to turn your microphone off yourself or turn it back on. Do you have a question before we wrap up?
I don't have any questions. I took a couple of notes that I'll send to you that might help Zoomers out here.
Okay, then sounds good. We need to improve on that. So
Yeah, hold that microphone, if they hold it below their chin a little away, and also when, people are asking questions, take the mic to them or repeat their question.
Good idea. Good
I
idea.
forgot about that, I'm sorry.
That's okay, I could hear most of it, and then, for the slides, I can hardly see those, I don't know if you can kind of zero in on slides.
Yeah,
Dim the lights a little when we're doing.
Yeah.
yeah, there's lots of room for improvement. We didn't get in on the Zoom game during COVID so much, but as we're coming out, everybody else got used to it, and so we're trying to do a little bit of that. So I was just going to make mention of our upcoming meetings. Haven't been able to find a speaker for the month of May, so we're too close in, and I just said we're just not going to have one in May. On June the 2nd, I've put in for a reservation for the room here. I haven't heard back from the library yet, but tentatively, June the 2nd, we're going to have a meeting about cybersecurity. And Joey LaGuardia works in Oak Ridge, and he has responsibilities that he couldn't tell me about them or he would have to kill me, right? So, but he's going to be a good expert on that topic. So certainly with what's going on in the world, and you know, war is not just rolling your tanks in now, it's attacking somebody over the internet. These are should be things that we should at least be aware of that are happening in our world. So that's on June the 2nd, Thursday, June the 2nd, tentatively here in this room. And then Thursday, July the 7th, the gentleman you've worked with in the past, it's Geronimo. Yeah, he stopped working with your organization, and he's a PhD student that has been for the last year and for the next 6 years going to be studying freshwater mussels in the Clinch River. Now, I was a little surprised to learn that mussels were in the lakes and rivers around here. I've never seen one. Lived around here almost all my life. Never saw them. Well, apparently in Tennessee's Clinch River is the largest biodiversity of freshwater mussels in the entire world. So I'm fascinated to learn more about that. But that's going to be on Thursday, July the 7th, again here in the room. And that one's confirmed speaker and confirmed room reservation, so we're ready to go on that one. And if you have ideas for things that we can do later in the year, if you know someone that would like to present, I heard was it hydroponics or
Aquaponics.
Aquaponics.
I might need to come and learn more.
Maybe through your research, you'll bump into some people at UT who would be interested in talking about that
I
topic.
did my whole master's thesis on the economics of hydroponic, or aquaponic. That's what you got me saying.
You could do-
Aquaponics.
You could do a discussion for example. So hydroponics, that's where there's no soil at all, right? The plants are right directly in contact with
Yeah,
water.
neither one of them are both of them are soilless.
Okay.
Hydroponics is solution, I call it chemical-based
Okay.
nutrient solution.
Okay.
Aquaponics is based on fish, so
It's
it's
exactly
its
the
own
kind of
ecology.
topic that charges my neurons, and I like to hear about it. So
Yeah.
that's the kind of topics that we,
Yes,
so if you know
talk about
someone
Well,
that would, if there's a topic you'd like to talk about, I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Thought you were saying. So, yeah, well, I'm looking for topics. Right now, August is going to be an extremely busy month. We go out to let people know about our science cafe. We actually go to some of the conventions that come in town, like comic book conventions and things like that. But all of them this year are all packed in the month of August. So we're probably not going to do a science cafe. We'll just be inviting people to science cafes in August. So we'll probably be looking at September and beyond. So if you know anyone that would like to schedule a meeting to talk about what is interesting to them, maybe what they're researching or have studied or are studying, just put them in touch with me. And our website is knoxsciencecafe.org. So if you go on there, you can click on the contact link. And the Science Cafe is sponsored by Spirit and Truth Fellowship of Knoxville. So our website's hosted on their page.
if you don't know about Spirit and Truth Fellowship, you can grab a brochure up here. And grab a bumper sticker if you want and let people know about it. The shirts, and we've had a few people ask about our shirts. So there is a shop in Seymour that is setting us up an online store. So if you're interested in getting a shirt, I'll actually have a flyer or something up here next month once it's on there. But you'll be able to go there and basically order directly from the shop, and we don't get involved in that. But if you want to get one, that's where we have these made, and you can order them just direct from them. So, has anybody got anything they'd like to say before we go, or a final comment? Everybody enjoy it tonight?
Yeah.
All right.
That was good.
Grab you a little bit more pie. There's some left. Take it home with you. That's good. But there, thank you everybody for coming.
Yes, it was.
Oh.